Number 41. Find an equation of the tangent line to the graph of f of x is equal to negative 10x plus 1. We need to find the general form of the derivative, which is the derivative of negative 10x is equal to negative secant squared x. Of course, the derivative of 1 is 0. Going back to the reference triangle, we find out that secant x is equal to the hypotenuse over the adjacent side. So secant pi over 6 is equal to 2 over square root of 3. So f prime of pi over 6 is equal to negative parenthesis 2 over square root of 3 squared, which is negative 4/3. Now, because we are looking for the equation of the line, we know that at the target point pi over 6, the slope is negative 4/3. We also know that the general form of the equation is y minus y naught is equal to mx minus x naught. And y naught is just f of pi over 6, which is equal to negative 10 pi over 6 plus 1. So f of pi over 6 will be equal to negative 10 pi over 6 is 1 over square root of 3 plus 1. Now, an equation of the tan line at pi over 6 will be y minus parenthesis negative 1 over square root of 3 plus 1 is equal to m, which is negative 4/3 times x minus the target point, which is pi over 6. We just have to simplify and solve for y to get the final form of the equation. Y is equal to distributing negative 4/3 x plus 4 pi over 3 times 6, 18, plus negative 1 over square root of 3 plus 1. Now y will be equal to negative 4/3 x plus 2 pi over 9, divide numerator and denominator by 2, minus square root of 3 over 3, rationalizing 1 over square root of 3, plus 1. Y is equal to negative 4/3 x plus 2 pi. The lowest common denominator is 9. So plus 2 pi minus 3 square root of 3. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 9 over 9. And this is the final form of the equation. B, we need to express the region in terms of an integral. That region is bounded by the graph of f, the x-axis, and the y-axis. First, we're going to look for the y-intercept, since the graph is bounded by the y-axis. For the y-intercept, x is equal to 0. And f of 0 is equal to negative tan 0 plus 1. So when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 1. Therefore, the point 0, 1 is the y-intercept. And then we're gonna look for the x-intercept. We let y equal to 0. Therefore, negative 10x plus 1 is equal to 0. Therefore, 10x is equal to 1. And x is equal to pi over 4 in this particular interval. So pi over 2, pi over 4 will be right here. So the x-intercept is pi over 4, and the function is bounded by f of x. So the expression that represents this area will be the integral from 0 to pi over 4 of f of x, which is negative 10x plus 1 dx. See, we are asked to calculate the average value of the function on the interval pi over 6, pi over 4, the close interval pi over 6, pi over 4. The formula for average value is 1 over b minus a times the integral of from a to b of f of x dx. So the average value will be 1 over pi over 4 minus pi over 6. The integral from pi over 6 to pi over 4 of negative 10x plus 1 dx. So the average will be pi over 4 minus pi over 6. Lowest common denominator is 12, so 3 times 4 is 12, so it's 3 pi minus 2 pi. The answer is pi over 12. So it's 1 over pi over 12. And the integral of negative 10x will be positive ln absolute value of cosine x, plus the integral of 1 will be x. Remember the formula, the integral of 10x dx is equal to negative ln the absolute value of cosine x plus c. So we have a double negative, that's the reason why it's positive. And the integral of 1 is just x. And it goes from pi over 6 to pi over 4. Now the average value is equal to 1 over pi over 12 will be 12 over pi multiplied by ln the absolute value of cosine pi over 4. Cosine pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2. We don't need the absolute value. Plus pi over 4 minus ln the absolute value of cosine pi over 6, which is square root of 3 over 3, plus pi over 6. We just need to simplify. 12 times ln square root of 2 over 2 will be 6 ln square root of 2 over pi. 12 pi times negative ln square root of 3 over 2 will be negative 6 square root of 3 over pi. And pi over 4 minus pi over 6 is pi over 12. And 12 over pi times pi over 12 is 1. So plus 1. So now the average value with a calculator is approximately 0.2256.